Hello everyone, welcome to myself, Max McGillivray from Beanstalk. If you're not aware of Beanstalk, we support, educate and promote the international fresh food sectors to help them thrive and grow faster. We're on a mission to reconnect people with their relationship with food, where it comes from, how it's grown, the people who make that happen, and the exciting stories around us all globally. We want to work on a global basis. We're engaging with a wide range of voices across the global fresh food supply chain to identify the challenges that gather around important issues, identify areas of consensus, and explore opportunities, collaborations, and partnerships that can help drive solutions involving the consumer along the journey. As part of our mission, we've set up and are running very successfully monthly broadcasts with key partners to support areas of the food sectors, with more broadcasts to come. And you can have a look at our website, beanstalk.global, to see further details. So food service, our broadcast today is majoring on food service. This is such a key area of food. And we partnered up with the renowned food service expert, Peter Backman, and with the global group Total Produce PLC to give you an ongoing understanding as to what is happening now and in the future with food service, so we can all learn and adjust accordingly in our new world. So the title for today's broadcast is The Impact of Lockdown 2.0. And as well as having Peter co-hosting with me, we have the great James Lipscomb, CEO of the Chesterford Group, and Tony Reynolds, the great Tony Reynolds, Managing Director of the Reynolds Group, with us. We also go live on a pre-recorded basis to speak to Ernie Miller, who's the key account manager for the Mark Murphy business, part of the Total Produce Group and based in Edinburgh, to get an understanding of his view from the customer base. We're streaming live to Facebook to 96,000 followers, and we're also streaming live to LinkedIn to 22,000 followers. So if you'd ever like to get involved with this food service broadcast or any of the other broadcasts that we are running, please come and contact us. So Peter, come on in so I can introduce you to everyone, please. And Peter, when I was walking the dogs this morning, I was thinking about how we'd set up this broadcast, and we set up the title a month ago for Lockdown 2.0. I'm sort of slightly in shock, Peter, that we seem to have fortuitously or bizarrely timed this broadcast for day one of Lockdown 2.0 within the UK. How are you feeling, Peter, about Lockdown 2.0?
I'm feeling rather, on the one hand, depressed. On the other hand, well, we've got some idea how it works, so let's get on with it.
Yeah.
But it's not a happy time. And I was going to ask you the same question. You know, how much of a hound dog day do you really think today is?
To me, it'd be quite open with you. Most people who know me know I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm in a slightly bit of shock. I can't really remember what lockdown one was like, so it's a bit of a shock going into this. But I suppose we all adjust, and there's got to be positives from this. And again, that's another key reason why you and I look to set up this broadcast. So Peter, for those who aren't aware of you, could you just give us a bit of an understanding as to your background in food service and why you are this renowned expert within food service, please?
I've been around in food service for quite a long time. I trained as a scientist, so as I say to people, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. So I'm very data centric. But having said that, there's an awful lot to learn around the data, the numbers, and so on. And over the years, I've analysed or commentated on or researched or advised on the food service market for the whole supply chain, from wormwood scrubs to the Ritz and from farm to fork. And nowadays, I work for investors, for operators, and for suppliers, both in this country and around the world. I've got a project going on, a joint venture project going on in India and in France, and I'm doing quite a lot of work in the States, and so on. So I guess my knowledge and experience is very widespread. That's why the media knock on my door quite a lot, TV and radio in particular. And in short, I position it and say I think I know food service. So that's me, really.
Fantastic. I think that's why it is a unique position that we've got. Instead of me interviewing James and Tony, to have you interviewing them, you're going to get such an understanding for all of us, even more so on the food service perspective.
Yeah, hopefully we will. And we've got two really great guys joining us, and maybe I can start with James.
Excellent.
Who you interviewed. James, if you can unmute yourself and show us your face. Oh, we can see your face. Hi. Hey. Hi, well done. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Tony, we haven't forgotten about you, but we'll pull you on in a few minutes. James, can I just ask you to sort of just introduce yourself, really, your background, the background of your business, so that the audience get to know who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Peter. So our business, the Rashford Group, we currently operate 40 fish and chip takeaways and restaurants around the UK. We employ around about 600 people, and we're a 25 million turnover business. My role within the business is Chief Executive Officer. We are a family business. I bought my brothers and sisters out in 2012 and then bought the controlling shareholding of my father in 2016.
That's great. People know fish and chips. They've been around for a very long time, but I just wonder whether you can give us a very brief flavour of, I don't know, what working in a fish and chip shop is like.
Yeah, sure. I still do it now, Peter. I still work in our stores every Friday. You know, we don't make any money with me sitting on my backside in our office. So, you know, it's really important that you get to the shop floor and you understand some of the challenges your teams are facing on a day-to-day basis. So, you know, in terms of our supply chain, we get all of our cod from Iceland. We've been working with the captains of the crews of the boats for around about 30 years. We get our fish from the northwest tip of Iceland in a place called Isafjord. And for those of you that haven't been to Iceland, when things get back to normal, I really recommend you go because it's an absolutely stunning country. We use around about 350 tons of cod a year. We sell around about 30,000 pieces of cod a week. And it's still our hero product, and we're very quality conscious. It's all from sustainable fishing sources. It's also illegal to catch any bycatch in Iceland, and any fish that's caught as bycatch goes into the central fish market in Reykjavik, and is the proceeds of which those products are sold, and the proceeds of which then go towards funding the Marine Research Institute, and that is the institute in Iceland which actually sets the fish quotas. Completely independent institute, and what that means is that, you know, again, you know, around the sustainability piece, that, you know, fish stocks have remained very stable in Iceland and will continue to do so in the future.
That's very interesting, and I'm sure we'll pick up on this sustainability issue a little bit later on. But just returning to your business, give me some idea of size.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, you know, 25 million turnover, 40 stores. You know, our business has changed dramatically, obviously, since the lockdown in March. We've had to pivot our business very, very quickly. The government came out and said that, you know, we weren't allowed to serve walk-in customers, and so therefore we had to move very, very quickly to a digital solution around delivery and click and collect, which I know we're going to come on and talk a little bit later on about, Peter. And so, you know, 50,000 customers a week typically is the amount of customers that we serve. And, you know, we have full hierarchy throughout the business with operations managers, operations director, social media team, project managers, and so on and so forth. And, you know, we very much built the business with scaling in mind. We've been growing by about 10 to 15% a year as a business. And, you know, come February, everything was looking very rosy in our garden.
Yeah. And then suddenly COVID comes knocking on the door.
Yeah.
What changes did COVID make to the way that you were thinking and planning to do things? You know, the immediate impact.
Yeah, I mean, we were trading really well, Peter. We were like-for-like sales. We were 10% up, which was fantastic. We were under pressure Food inflation, was running sort of 10, 12%. National minimum wage was increasing with the government's targets to get national minimum wage up to the benchmarks that they'd set. So whilst trade was strong, there was some definitely challenges around our margin, and that was getting harder and harder. There's no doubt about that. What I would say is that the way in which customers wanted to order from us was changing as well. So pre-COVID, digital sales represented 17% of our weekly sales mix. 3% of that was click and collect, and 14% was delivery. We had around about 23 delivery vehicles pre-COVID. Obviously, then suddenly you go to a situation where on the 23rd of March, we had to close our business because we didn't feel the risk assessments we had were in place were suitable and sufficient, and the safe ways of working weren't right to keep our customers and our teams as safe as possible. So we closed the business down, which was the right thing to do because we just were not prepared correctly for serving customers in that kind of way. So unfortunately, my wife had COVID quite badly in March as well. So actually, sort of during that period, I was at home self-isolating with her, which was pretty tough. I trusted the management business here to run or to effectively close the business down, which my managing director and ops team did an amazing job with. And then what we did then is we started working on our Phoenix plan, and really we structured that around 3 areas, which were number one, making sure that our health and safety risk assessments and our safe ways of working were up to scratch. And we worked with our environmental health office to produce safe ways of working. Second thing was the digitalization of our business. How can we, now we can't serve walk-in customers, how can we make sure that we pivot to a digital model? And then that meant that through click and collect and delivery, we had to scale up our business up rapidly. And then the third part of that plan was around social media communications. How do we tell customers now how they can order from us if the 50,000 customers we were serving who used to walk into our stores now can't do so? So I upscaled our social media management team dramatically in that short space of time to make sure we got the message out to customers, and that proved successful for us. Go on, Peter.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, so you sort of fast forward where we are now, and we have now got 65 delivery vehicles. Digital sales are now at 45% from 17%. We think slightly differently about delivery. So we lease our cars directly, we employ our own drivers, and we use a third-party piece of technology to enable customers to order from us. We also use Just Eat purely for their order platform, just for customers to order from. But what we're trying to do is basically migrate as many customers across onto our own platform as we possibly can do, because it's a far more profitable revenue stream for us. We don't have to pay the heavy aggregator fees with Deliveroo and Uber. We manage that whole consumer experience end to end, and we own the customer data, which means then we can market to those customers accurately. And throughout lockdown, it was crazy because the orders were coming into us. I was having to borrow my mum's car to do deliveries. I was doing it in my car. We had managers borrowing their wives' cars to do deliveries. It was just absolutely crazy, but we did all that we could to make sure that we could service our customers. And one of the challenges that you have around delivery is efficiency. Is about trying to make that model as efficient and as profitable as possible is a real challenge. But through learnings and understanding how the model works, and the third party technology that we use, which gives us a just-in-sequence supply chain management model, which is incredibly important because when delivery is all about managing your labor costs and making it as efficient as possible. And so what our third party piece of technology does is it allows us to give a time frame in which a specific amount of customers can order in. So what that means is that within a 15-minute window, I can set the system up to say, I'm only going to allow 5 customers to order within that window. And then that way you can plan all your labor models and all your efficiencies around that model, which then makes it far more profitable. One of the challenges is when you use Delivery and Uber, who charge 35% commission to the restaurants and takeaways to deliver their food, is that you have no control over how many orders are coming through at any one given time, which then means labor costs are all over the place because it's on a Friday night at 6:30, you can have 15 orders come through. On a Wednesday, you might only have 4 come through. And then the next Wednesday, you might have 15 come through. So it's just very, very difficult.
James, that's really fantastic, and that's a whole subject on its own.
Mhm.
What I'd like to do is ask you if you wouldn't mind, because I want to switch over to Tony now, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself, and Tony, if you can unmute yourself and switch off your video. And Tony, yeah, good. Hi, Tony. I guess I got similar questions as well, just to start off with, a bit about your background, background of your business, open it up and tell us.
Okay, thank you, Peter and Max, for inviting me on. So I'm a third generation greengrocer. I started the business on my granddad's market stall in Ridley Road, Hackney, and over the last 30 years, we've built the business up to a predicted sales for this year was going close to 250 million. Unfortunately, we won't reach that, but we've been able to grow in an independent way, and we've invested heavily in our business, particularly around our people and our systems, and diversified in recent years into other fresh categories like meat and fish and manufacturing as well. So it's quite a diverse group now, but I'm very much still the greengrocer in it.
A great greengrocer and fish and chip shop. That's interesting connection. That is a great background. I just want to sort of pick up on the onset of COVID, and at that moment, or just beforehand, what were you thinking? What were your plans? And obviously, then the next question will be, and how did COVID affect them?
Well, similarly to lots of people running businesses, on the 23rd of March, our world turned upside down, and we ended up going down to as low as 5% of our former sales, literally overnight. A lot of our customers are high street restaurant chains, national hotel groups, contract caterers, airlines, airports, travel hubs, cruise ships, you name it. And as we all know, it all shut down very rapidly. So we had some big challenges. Thankfully, we took full advantage of the support that the government was offering. But unfortunately, we've had to make a significant amount of staff redundant and reinvent ourselves. And, we carried on trading. We didn't stop. We still had some NHS contracts and care home contracts. And also we did an enormous amount for charity. My wife very much looks after that side of the business, and we did a lot with the NHS and some of the food banks. So there was a lot of good things that came out of it. But most importantly, we learned a lot about ourselves and have remained positive throughout all the challenges, and have been able to invest in this time in a very productive way to make sure, my mantra is very much, we want to come out of this stronger.
You've built I know you've built a great team and a team ethic within your business, and I'm assuming that really carried you certainly through the early days of the lockdown, and enabled you just to maintain some sort of momentum. But if you take us forward now to yesterday, or late summer anyway, were things getting better, would you say, or was it still really, really tough?
Yeah, I think it is really tough. You know, a lot of our customers still haven't been able to get their businesses back. Some haven't even been able to open. So it really has been a difficult time for many reasons. But what we've been able to do is obviously learn a lot from the first lockdown. And I certainly feel today we are much, much better prepared to cope with the next 4 weeks and anything else that is thrown up. So, you know, a lot of our customers, a bit like James's business, have adapted as well to home deliveries and various other ways to keep their businesses going. But it's not as it was, Peter. It's not what we all knew food service was. A lot of my customers have had to restructure. So even before coronavirus, you know, quite a lot of negativity was around the high street and particularly restaurant chains being oversupplied. So there's been obviously a recalibration of that sector, and I think all the companies that are around now, some of the big brands, are a lot leaner and probably will come out of this a lot stronger, having shed some poor performing sites and had some time to look at their business models and find a better way to operate financially viably.
So that's really, really good review and overview of your business as well. I'd like to ask you to mute yourself and turn off your video, because we're going back over to Max now, who's going to take us forward. Thank you, Max.
Peter, just before we go into the video with Ernie, I found that fascinating with James and Tony, how they both had to adapt and transform their businesses, and crikey, it feels like it's only a third of the way through, because crikey knows what's going to happen in the new year. I've just learned so much from James and Tony on that basis. It's fascinating. So Peter, if you just turn off your video, I'll just get streaming with Ernie's video. If you're listening on the podcast on YouTube or on LinkedIn, just to reiterate what this is. So this is a Beanstalk broadcast about food service, and it's great to be associated with Peter Backman, the renowned food service expert, and we're powered today by the Total Produce PLC group to give you this this fantastic content. Just as a reminder, if you're on with us live, if you'd like to ask questions of our three experts, Peter, Tony and James, you know how Zoom works, just pile on in and ask those questions of the gentleman. And we're now going to go live on a pre-record to a great chap, Ernie Miller. If I could just find, bear with me. Right, always got to have a technical. I tell you what, Peter, could you just come in and assist me, and we'll just keep the conversation going?
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to carry on talking while you're playing?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, Peter. If you could just give us an understanding as to what you've seen with your other customers, your other clientele. So I sort this out. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. So this is all off the cuff. What I have found is very, very much what we've heard already. Really tough, although an amazing thing has been that if you look at the shape of the eating out market over the last 6 months, prior to that, all the activity was in casual dining, and there was a thriving hotel sector and eating at work and pubs and so on. That all collapsed, and we suddenly saw ourselves looking at a market that was care homes and primarily the healthcare sector. So a completely different shape to the market. and people have to get to grips with that. Certainly on the supply side. Are you ready?
I am ready. I found Ernie.
Okay.
Thank you, Peter, for
I'll
saving me from an IT abyss. Let's go live with Ernie. Good morning to Ernie Miller, Key Account and Customer Liaison Manager from Mark Murphy, part of the Total Produce World Group. Ernie, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mark. First of all, I'd like to say a very warm welcome to Edinburgh. Always great to have guests here, whether they're online or in person.
Ernie, you're a superstar. And you very kindly allowed us to join you at something like 4 o'clock in the morning. What does the O stand for? Oh my God, it's early. but we wanted to come to you at this time of the morning because we wanted to see the busy backdrop of what's going on in Edinburgh. So just tell us what's happening this morning, and near on 4 o'clock in the morning. What's happening within your depot, please?
Well, as usual, listen, the guys have just finished the pick. They usually finish about 4 o'clock or so. The driver are starting to arrive. They sort of arrive anytime after 3 up to about 5:30. And listen, it's the best time of the day. The usual madness. There's tears, tantrums, jokes, laughs, and that's just the driver. But listen, it's great fun, and it really is the best time of the day here.
Fantastic. So just give us a bit of an understanding as to the Mark Murphy business. If I was a customer of yours, what would I be buying from you?
Okay, so Mark Murphy, we distribute fresh produce and food service products throughout Scotland. We've got our main depot here in Edinburgh. We've also got two satellite depots, one in Aberdeen, one in Purwokerry. But I think it's an evolving thing, but we've got approximately around 1,000 what we call extra value products on top of our fresh produce that we do.
Wow. Okay. And how many customers do you have from your various depots?
So that's a good question. Approximately in normal times, if you like, we've got around about 2,500 fish.
Wow.
And
okay. And your normal customer, I know you probably won't have such a thing, but what would a normal customer look like?
Okay, so we've got a wide variety of customers here in Edinburgh. We've got our own retail park house in the depot. So we do a lot of retail stores. We do, and our main customer is C.G. Langan, based in Dundee. They distribute to all the spa stores throughout Scotland. We do independent catering trade, such as your dog and duck pub. We do national contracts. We do groups. We also supply, we're the distribution arm for Subway in Scotland. So we deliver products to Subway, all the Subway stores in Scotland 3 times a week.
Wow. Okay, so Ernie, let's get to it. The reason why we requested to talk to you was you're on the ground. You must have had a tumultuous last 6 months. How have you been? How has the business been since March of this year?
Well, listen, we're no different from any other company or business. We've had to adapt. We've had to diversify. We've had to do different things. We've had to be flexible with our customers, and it's been difficult. It's been challenging. But listen, we've got through it. Back in March, when it all started, when lockdown was in tight, if you like, our 2 main things were to keep our staff safe and keep our service levels for our customers as high as possible, if you like. That was our 2 main things, and we've been consistent throughout since March with that.
Okay, and Ernie, when you went into lockdown number 1, presumably, did you see sales drop off, and did you then have to, here's the big word, pivot to find new customers?
Yeah, so like I say, back in March, probably about 75-80% of our customers just they had to shut.
Wow.
The strange thing about here, like I say, we've got our own retail park house in here. So our retail side, which is probably about 20-25%, it was booming and it was really busy, because of what was going on. But that was a challenge within itself. The various things, the transport and the buyers, if you like. So the procurement team, it's a balancing act. They can't let the customers down that they've got, but in the same token, a large part of our customer base is right tight. So it's a challenge throughout the departments.
Okay, only thank you. And as we come into lockdown 2.0, what are your thoughts? Are you going to see a replication of the first lockdown for the second lockdown, or do you think it's going to be slightly different this time round?
I don't think it's going to be as severe because, what has amazed me throughout the lockdown is, I'm seeing we've adapted and we've diversified. Our customers have done the same. So, various things to keep their doors open, keep their lights on. So I don't think it's going to be as bad. For instance, in Scotland, we've got the 5-tier system now. For instance, the bars and the restaurants in Edinburgh, they've been able to open again from this week. They can't serve alcohol and they can only open up till, I think it's 6 o'clock at night. Whereas over in Fife or other regions, the restaurants can open again up till 8 o'clock at night and they can serve alcohol. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. I don't think it's going to be, at the moment, and listen, you're looking at the rolling news every day and it is changing, but at the moment it doesn't look like it's going to be so bad, hopefully.
Okay, and how's your business going to change, do you think? In the new year, do you think your business is going to be a completely different business from the business that you had at the start of this year?
That's a good question. I don't think it's going to be a completely different business, no. What I do think is, the customers, the buying habits, the eating habits, the way they socialise, the way they're going out, that may have changed, and that could change our dynamics slightly. What we are hoping for will come next year, from March, April, maybe a bit further. We get back to some sort of normality, if you like.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to see a massive change in our business. What I'm hoping for is we're going to get busier and stronger, and look back on all this and look at the things that we've learned about.
Fantastic. And only just to wrap up with other people in food service who perhaps aren't as confident as yourself, having been bruised and battered through lockdown 1, and it's like, oh no, we're going down lockdown 2. What would your advice be to other food service operators as to how they can get through lockdown 2 and try and punch through to make it a successful 2021? What would your advice be to those food service businesses?
Well, it's difficult. Well, a few things. The key thing is listen to your customers. Keep focused on what they want. Listen to them. Listen to their reasonable requests. Obviously, your balance what you've got with your expenses of your business to what you're actually doing and what you're actually delivering out to the customer. It's no different to normal times. It's your outgoings and your incomings. So, and keep as lean as possible, but maintain the customer level of service that your customers require. That's what we found anyway.
Ernie, that's fantastic. I think that advice about communication, keeping lean, and talking to your customer is fantastic. And I think we've learned so much from you today. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Matt.
Ernie, a coffee to you in the morning, and rock on Edinburgh. Well done. You did a fantastic job out there.
Thanks very much.
And sorry for the slight shaky quality of it, but you hopefully got an understanding from Ernie. I was actually quite surprised, Peter, how sort of upbeat and buoyant he was about his particular market sector in Scotland.
Yeah, well, fine. And those are some of the questions, actually, I think I'd like to ask Tony and James, actually. So if I can ask you guys to unmute yourself and switch on your video again. James as well, if you can join us. And I think I'd sort of like to pick up on one of the questions that you asked, Max, and it's around, we've been through a pretty traumatic time over the last 6, 7 months, 8 months, and we're now entering another period. Hopefully, it's not going to be as bad and as long. And the question really, both for James and Tony, is what lessons did you learn, and how has that put you in a position to cope with the next few weeks? I don't know, Tony, do you want to start off?
Yeah, sure, Peter. Well, you're absolutely right. We've learned an enormous amount from the last 8 or so months, and currently, I think the key for us has been the well-being of our team, our people. I think the first lockdown, because of the way the furlough scheme worked, we had to have a core team, but we couldn't interchange those people. So people that were not required to be in that task force actually spent quite a number of months at home. And then luckily enough, we was able to invite some of them back. And when they come back, obviously they were very euphoric about starting work again, which was fantastic. But we did find that a lot of people had issues around the physical nature of coming back to work, and increasingly the mental stress that they were encountering. So this time we're very conscious, and with the benefit of this new furlough scheme, we're able to flex people in and out of the workplace a lot better. And hopefully, obviously, it doesn't go on for the duration of the first lockdown. So that's a big part for us in making sure the well-being of our people is at the forefront of our actions.
Thank you. James, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think Tony did a great job answering that question. You know, ultimately we're a people business, and you know, I think one of the things that certainly I learned was just the importance of video communication with your teams. So what I was doing was certainly really from March onwards, I was doing a piece to camera every single day and just simply recording it on my mobile phone, just making sure I was communicating what the business was doing, what the government legislation was, and what that meant. And that way it just meant that I could really communicate to the teams in a really honest way. And when the teams can actually see your face and see what you're going through as a leader of the business, I think there's some emotional and deeper connection when that happens, rather than emails or, you know, text messages, whatever it may be. And so that without doubt definitely helped. I think certainly some of the other lessons I learned was really around the fact that we were probably starting to get a bit bloated as an organization. And actually what it meant is that we really had to think on our feet. We had to break business models, break the normal way of doing things, because when you have some of your staff furloughed, you know, at that point we had no shops open and trading, we had no revenue coming in. Then to scale up in a way where we were sort of starting to open 2-3 shops a week, and then we opened 21 stores on a day in May, which was just absolutely bonkers. Is then, you know, you're trying to do these things whilst still trying to make sure you can earn as much money as possible and not affect the bottom line too much. And so therefore you just have to break the way that you were, say, just, you know, getting your store MI and so on. And so we certainly learned that, and it gave us the confidence then to sort of do that moving forward and really come up with new ways of doing things and become far more innovative.
You used an interesting word, which I'm going to ask Tony whether he's got any comments on, and that's breaking things. I'm assuming you're not talking about dropping glass jars. Tony, did you find you had to break things during the last 9 months, or was it more evolutionary?
No, we've had to, you know, when your business falls off a cliff like it did on the 23rd of March, you know, we was walking around our business and seeing all this fantastic fresh food, and you know, we realised that going forward, we've got to have better ways of diversifying into other sectors, and also we need to have a better way of managing that exposure. And it has meant that our whole mindset has changed for the good of how we actually engage with our customers in managing the range of products that we offer them. So there's been so many examples of what we do and think differently now to what we did prior to the lockdown, and that just gives me so much energy and positivity about how we're going to come out of this an even better company, and that's going to be good for our growers and farmers, and that's going to be fantastic for our customers. And although obviously we could have all well done without this, you know, we have had to use this time proactively, and I'm delighted with what I'm seeing in the Reynolds Group anyway.
It seems from what both of you are saying is that it's a testing time. It's been a really testing time, and it's pushed you in directions that you weren't necessarily going to go,
Yes.
and in a positive way, albeit under very, very difficult circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just sort of like to get some sense from you, because you both mentioned it, of the people in the business. I'm moving now a bit more generally away from COVID. People in your business are important. I don't know if you'd just like to add to that in any way, Tony.
Yeah, I think you know, the fact that I'm a greengrocer, and you know, we've got this this business. You know, for a long time, I knew I had my limitations. Obviously, I've got a lot of passion, and you know, I love what I do. But you know, there's so many things that I am certainly not that good at, and it's always been, again, a key part of our growth in finding better people to complement the skills that we've already got in the business. And I'm very, very fortunate that my exec team possess lots of different skills that complement my passion. And, you know, through times like this, you really do find how good that quality is in so many areas. And I think as a team, as a group, we've performed at a much higher level. Yeah, we've had our down times, and there's been emotion, plenty of emotion, but we've all pulled through together. I think we've all learned a lot as a group, and certainly I'm very blessed, very fortunate to have the sort of team in Reynolds that we have today.
James, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I reiterate what Tony said. I mean, you know, our people are everything. They're the ones that make the magic happen. And we, around about 2017, we basically established our core values and our core purpose as a business. And we've got a cross-section of people, from across the business, and got together in a room and really found out what the company meant to them, which then led on to our core values and our core purpose being defending the future of fish and chips, and our core values, which is our SAVE values, which are strive to be better and do the right thing, go above and beyond for our customers, value and believe in each other, and empower each other to be extraordinary. And we did a roadshow, went round to all of our stores, because one of the challenges when you have a multi-site business, any multi-site business, is how do you try and maintain culture when you have teams that are very disparate and away from each other, and you know, away from the leadership at the time as well. And so, you know, the roadshow that I did, going out, talking about the values, talking about the future of the business, talking about 5-year plan, and just consistently making sure that you reinforce those values and making sure that the behaviours are rewarded around those values is really important. And, you know, and I think that showed in lockdown. I had managers phoning me up saying, you know, when can I open my store? When can I do that? You know, how's the business going? How are you going? You know, what's happening in the business? And it was absolutely fantastic. And we asked managers to go above and beyond in that time, because, you know, we've got stores that, you know, we've only got, say, you know, some of our times, you know, 2-3 stores open out of our 40 stores, and we're asking people to work longer hours and, you know, work on lower pay and just to help the business get through that tricky period. And they did that. And even when I was phoning, I phoned every single member of our management team with our managing director, which was around about 120 people, in person, to let them know exactly that they're, what furlough meant, that we would be putting them on furlough. And they all really appreciated those phone calls. And they were some of the hardest phone calls I've ever had to make, because at that point, I didn't know when we'd be reopening, and I didn't know what the future of our business was.
It must have been a really, really tough time, really. I'd just like to, first of all, comment on the fact that both of you are third generation in your respective fields. And that sort of raises the question of family, which goes alongside people. And I don't know if you've got observations about how important family is generally in running the business.
Yeah, do you want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you've got to get a balance. I think, for me, yeah, all the good values of having that personal touch and having those long-term views and have family actively involved in the business is fantastic. But you've still got to run a business, and you've still got to run it in the most professional way possible. So what we certainly we've tried to do is get that balance, because if I don't have people that believe in the business, they just think it's a family run affair, and that means the family are going to have ultimate decision making powers and all that. That's not the way we certainly run our business. I'm the only one that sits on the board. All my other executives, directors are non-family, so it's very much business first. And the family side is there to complement the business, but we have to run the business like any other corporate or professional organisation, because of the well-being of people and making sure legally that we're doing everything correctly.
So it's this balance between the family and making sure that you're running the business properly, that the employees are protected, and all those sort of things. And I guess the same true for you, James.
Yeah, and I think somebody put it to me in probably the best way I've heard, is that family means unconditional love, whereas a team all works towards a goal and is accountable for the decisions and the behaviours that they produce. And so I like to think we're a family business, but we work as a team, and I think that's really crucial for the way in which the mindset of people is as well. And also, coming on what Tony was saying, is that I also believe that family businesses tend to make longer term decisions for the future of the business, and may have to take sometimes some short term pain for that. And sometimes I feel that certainly corporate entities tend to have a shorter term vision for success around shareholder value, as opposed to actually making the right decisions for the business long term. And so, I think the strengths of family businesses, are there to see. And I think that, for me, the teams knowing you as the owner of the business, when you're standing on a fish frying range cooking fish and chips with them on a Friday night, is really important, and they can put a name to the face, and they know that they're just not a number as well. So we make a big effort to get out there, get to the shop floor, make sure we know some of the challenges that they're facing, and work alongside them.
So there must be lessons there for so-called corporates. They obviously can't become family businesses, although interestingly, quite a lot of very large corporations that we now know started off as family businesses. But I'm just wondering whether there is any core message, key message that one can give to a corporate about what could be learned from a family business. Whether it's possible. talk in those terms?
I mean, personally, I come back to core values. I think to a certain degree, whether or not you're a family business or not, if your core values are right and you stick to them and you're true to those core values, you're going to engender trust, respect, a feeling of working together towards a common goal. So I sort of tend to come back to those points whereby, providing that, you are living and breathing those values that you've created together as an organization, then I think you have a far greater chance of success.
Core values, Tony, is that what you would suggest, or do you have something else?
Yeah, no, James is absolutely right. You've got to live and breathe the passion of the business. But for me, obviously having Tom and Nick in the business now, fourth generation greengrocers, there's a huge responsibility for me to make sure that they can add value to the organisation, but also that they can get fulfilment. You wouldn't want people working in a family business because they're family. You want people working in that business because they think they can add something more to the company. And I think the fact that we've obviously got that opportunity, and it's very exciting. Makes for some interesting conversations around the kitchen table at times, but we are getting better at sort of getting that work-life balance, and that takes working out as well.
Okay, so if I can adjust the time frame and now start to look at the future, and so ask you both really, what hopes and aspirations and plans do you have, short term, longer term? And I guess as far as Tony's concerned, I would also put in Brexit. I don't know how important that is to James. And for James, I would put in delivery, and I'm not quite sure. I'm talking about home delivery, and I'm not sure how important that is to Tony. So the question is hopes, plans, aspirations for the future in 2 minutes. Tony.
Yeah, as I said earlier, our belief is we want to come out of this stronger. From our view, we feel that there's going to be further consolidation in the wholesale sector. I think customers are going to need better, brighter solutions to help them manage their businesses more efficiently. So for us, with our carnivore meat company, our shoal fish business, our manufacturing, Solstice, our high-end greengrocer, we've got some assets there that we think are going to be deployed even more. And we're actively looking to find other additions to that portfolio of businesses. So we're looking, and we're trying to give our customers even more options than we already do in making their lives easier and being able to control their supply chains. And of course, with Brexit looming, it's very, very important that those, conversations, those relationships have always got that caveat of, the what if scenarios. And again, we're using this time very proactively to get the necessary legal position right and the training right for all the extra processes I'm sure that we're going to have to activate as and when the deal is done.
Yes, well, I think we've got a pretty good idea about the timing. What we don't know is what deal will be done, but I'm sure you've got that totally under control.
Oh, as always, yeah.
James, what's the future for you?
Sure. So the future for us is really to create a multi-branded food business with a turnover £100 million within the next 10 years. So one of the challenges we've had as a business is the oversaturation of the eating out market in the UK, Peter, that you touched on earlier. I mean, it's just crazy with the amount of PE money that came into our sector in 15, 16 and onwards. And it just meant that a lot of players were just going for all out growth and weren't necessarily worried at that point what their bottom line was and hoping that it was come right. And so, that was a big challenge. And and that challenge is, unfortunately for those business, but fortunately for us, has sort of gone away. I also, you go through something like this, and certainly you realise you've got all your personal wealth in one entity, and maybe that's not the most sensible thing to do in the world. So certainly diversification around different food concepts for us is something that we're actively doing, and I've got various things going on at the moment behind the scenes, Peter, to make sure that we do become a much more diversified business moving forward, which is going to be exciting as well because of the opportunities that are out there and will be out there in the next few years. But I'm really focused around sort of three core strategy points, really, which is ensuring that our business is simple, it's affordable, and it's digital. And so those three cornerstones of our strategy is what we base all our decision making as an exec team on. And we find that anything that doesn't effectively fit into one of those three core strategy areas, we're just knocking out the window and we're not interested. So for instance, when it comes to restaurants, let's talk about, say, casual dining and full service restaurants. Is there a cheaper way of producing that kind of customer experience via, say, a counter model whereby a customer comes, collects their food, gets a table number, sits down, and then you bring the food to them, therefore cutting the wage bill, making it much more affordable from a consumer point of view to purchase that product, and also much more affordable in terms of a wage bill. So simple, affordable, digital, those are the three things that we're really focusing on moving forward.
One of the things which I've been spending an awful lot of time on globally is the delivery, the expansion of delivery, and I'm just interested to know whether I've got to be careful not confusing it with distribution, wholesale distribution, but home delivery. The extent to which that is a core part of what you're planning to do, or an important part, or just a peripheral part, without giving away any secrets, if you don't want to answer it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it's an important part. I wouldn't say it's a core part of what we want to do moving forward. I still believe that if you provide a good experience for customers, they're still going to want to come out and shop with you. There are challenges around delivery. Making the model as profitable as it can be is challenging, and the only way that certainly we've managed to do that is by leasing our own vehicles, employing our own drivers, and all that kind of thing. But that comes with a whole load of complexity in its own right, and so it is challenging. We've got 2 virtual kitchen brands that we operate out of our fish and chip shops. One's called Cereal Grill, and another one's called Chicken Punk, which is a better chicken brand, because you need to sweat your assets, and that's something that we are doing. Obviously, there's the whole dark kitchen model that is currently proving successful for some brands. What that looks like in the future, it's difficult to know. It's also difficult to know whether or not, pre-COVID, when certainly the millennials were ordering all of their takeaways off their phones, when the economic downturn is going to affect those individuals more than any other, are they going to be willing to spend 15 to 20 pounds to get food delivered when they can actually walk into a shop and get it for 30% cheaper? So I'm very interested to see on a macroeconomic level how that actually plays out as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think one thing that does concern me is that the commoditization of food delivery does worry me. Is that how can you make sure that you still stand out as a brand in what will become, again, an oversaturated delivery market is going to be a real challenge. And that's something we are super focused on at the moment, is making sure that we create the right kind of brand. For instance, we supported the Marcus Rashford meals. We gave away 1,500 free meals to kids during half terms who would have normally have got school meal vouchers. And the advocacy and the PR we got from that was absolutely amazing. But that's not the reason we did it. We did it because it was the right thing to do. And yet, again, it's just an example of, as a brand, how do you try and differentiate yourselves on some of, on the aggregator websites and so on. So that is a challenge. Some of our restaurants, they have up to, say, 270 restaurants that can deliver to their postcodes with different food types. And then it makes it really hard then to stand out from the crowd. So it's all about brand.
A great analysis. So thank you very much. Thank you for that. So I've got one question for you both before we wrap up, and that is, what does success look like define success in your business, James?
What does success look like? Success to me, are we talking about in the future, or are we talking about as of today?
I leave it open to you. What do you believe to be important?
Okay, what I believe to be important, first of all, is making sure that we employ as many people as we possibly can. I think that's absolutely key, giving them the opportunities to improve their lives and the lives of their families by creating opportunities through growth and through creating a multi-branded food business is something that's really key to me. And success to me means that, in 10 years, I've grown the business to be £100 million turnover. I've created a multi-branded food business, and we have so many opportunities within our business that people love working for us, and we've created brands that people love.
Great, thank you. Tony, what does success look like for you?
Oh, there's lots of things that excite me about what we're doing, but I suppose really it's just taking that business from my granddad's market barrow and creating these fantastic opportunities for all different types of people from all different types of background, and going on a journey with the team to create fantastic solutions for our customers, and particularly being in fresh produce, fresh ingredients. I think having a lot of fun with that and making sure that we're doing as much as we can to put back into the industry as possible, whether it's through the charity work that we do or in raising the awareness of the health benefits of eating fresh food. So I think there's so many exciting things, but certainly having a team of people that you can go on a journey with and enjoy the good times, but also recognise the bad times and come through it together.
Great. I really think that's fantastic. So from both of you. So I'd like to thank Tony Reynolds, James Lipscomb for your fantastic contribution. Max, do you want them to mute and hide themselves?
Yes, please, gentlemen. And just to reiterate, Peter, I think we've learned so much from you both today. I think it's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you. So Peter, fantastic questioning of them both here. Can I just be candid with you, Peter? I'm actually quite angry, and I'll tell you why I'm angry. One evening this week, I was listening to Times Radio. So this is the new radio station for the Times newspaper, and they had a commentator on there who was stating that food service companies should just be let go. They've had all of this help, this assistance from the Eat Out to Help Out campaign. They've had all this furlough. Food companies, they can park their kitchens and they can come back to them. There's better businesses out there that need longer term support rather than food businesses. You look at Tony and you look at James. Oh my God! And your lovely question about success, and you can see that both of them, they're going to work through this because they're just laser focused that they will make a success of that. And especially James's comment about we want to employ lots of people. How are we going to get out of this COVID situation and God forbid this depression that we're going to go into by employing people and giving them really good nutritious food? So I wish that commentator could see this interview that you've just done with Tony and James to realize how mistaken that they are. So for a country, for us to get through the situation, we need Tonys, we need Jameses, we need lots of them, and for everyone to learn from them. But Peter, what do you think?
Within the food service market, there are lots and lots of Jameses and Tonys. There really are. I mean, the whole industry is, employs hundreds of thousands of people, low millions of people. Yeah. And within that, there are really incredible people who will make a success of the future. The commentator you're talking about, I think he might have a point that there are some within the industry who it's probably correct should be cleared out. I'm not going to name any names, but there is a wealth of enthusiasm, innovation, spirit, and it's all built around people, because the food service market part of the hospitality market, it exists to make people feel better. And so the people working in it are those sort of people. So it's going to succeed. And there will be more Jameses and there will be more Tonys. Take my word for it.
Well, Peter, if you and I, with this broadcast series, if we can promote more Jameses and Tonys on an ongoing basis, and especially potentially on an international basis, that if you're Peter, if you're up for that, we're up for that.
Okay, I'm really looking forward to it, because there are, as I say, there's lots of people to speak to, and an awful lot of lessons to learn. And I'm sure the audience today will have learned lessons, things that they weren't expecting to learn.
Yeah, but Peter, very good point. We've had a lot of commentary whilst we've been talking about, I've had to step out, I've had to go to a meeting. Will there be a record available? And within 24 hours, we'll have the full record up on YouTube, and in due course, we'll also have a podcast. So Peter, just to wrap up, let me ask the question that you asked James and Tony very eloquently. To you, what does success look like for food service?
It will be success will look like that it's even better than it was a year ago. Bigger, more exciting, more innovative, and commercially safer than it was.
Yeah, but just pulling on that point about that James said, that all of these PEs piling into the sector, trying to, put in my words, but make a fast buck. And if that actually helps clear them out and allows proper businesses and proper individuals to establish themselves, the food service sector will hopefully be in a far better place.
I hope you're right. I think you probably will be.
Excellent.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Yeah.
So just to wrap up, Peter, if that's okay. Firstly, thank you to you. I thought your question of the gentleman was fantastic. Thanks again to James and Tony, and thank you very much to Total Produce PLC for powering this broadcast. And again, it will be available as a full record. We'll be having a broadcast in December with a title. And Peter, should we have a guess at what the title should be for December on the basis that we managed to guess this one spot on? But perhaps we'll leave that for another day.
We did a great job getting that name. We really did.
So everyone, keep safe. We hope lockdown 2.0 goes okay for you. Make sure that you are buying your fish and chips from James, that you're buying your fresh produce, your fresh food from Tony. And Peter, thank you very much. We'll see you on the December broadcast.
Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.